Tyson had already won the fight, as far as they're concerned. They count me out just like Rocky Balboa. So as far as I'm concerned, he going to sleep when I go up there.
And look at young Mike Tyson.
It was 1986, New York. Run DMC on the radio, Wall Street on the rise, and under the lights of Madison Square Garden, the most feared prospect in heavyweight boxing was climbing into the ring. Mike Tyson, 20 years old, 21 fights, 21 wins, 19 knockouts. He was no longer just a promising kid from Brooklyn. He was becoming a legend. But that night, standing across from him, was no ordinary opponent. Reggie Gross, the man Cus D'Amato feared most. A street dealer with a violent secret. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why. Cus D'Amato didn't just know boxing, he felt it at a level most people couldn't reach. While other trainers studied records, he studied character. Before his death in late 1985, he left Torres a list of names, not champions, not stars, fighters Mike shouldn't touch, until he had more experience. At the very top of that list stood one name, Reggie Gross. It might have seemed strange. Gross's record, 18 wins and 4 losses. He lost to mediocre opponents like Anthony Witherspoon. He fought undercards, not main events. So, why him? Because D'Amato saw what others missed. Gross could look unconvincing against average fighters, then suddenly destroyed genuinely dangerous men like Jimmy Clark and Burt Cooper. He was unpredictable, the type of fighter who raised his game, precisely when nobody expected it, the type who felt most dangerous as the underdog.
Once the fight got to close quarters, he kind of made it a pity-pat looping type punches. He takes about 5 or 6 in a row there.
He's hurt. He's hurt badly. And he's wobbling. The referee has got to.
Reggie Gross was never an ordinary boxer. Outside the ring, he lived by different rules, a different code. Growing up on the hard streets of Baltimore, he'd been on the wrong side of the law from an early age. Theft, robbery, drug trafficking charges. He started boxing in the late 70s, but the streets never left him. If anything, things got darker. Years later, those streets would catch up with him. 3 life sentences for murder. Boxing was his front. Behind it was a completely different world. He just didn't know yet that his real career wouldn't be in the ring. But before this fight, he was genuinely charged up. He put on a little show for the journalists, stepped up to the microphone, and delivered his own rap.
I'm badder than bad, I'm cooler than cool. I want you all to know that I'm no fool. I'm running up hills training for Mike. And on the 13th is gonna be my night. You talk about Tyson like he's a king. On the 13th he's gonna lay in the ring. I'm not Curtis Blow or Run DMC, but on the 13th it's gonna be about me.
This wasn't just a PR stunt. Gross spoke like a man who already knew how it would end.
No, I doubt that seriously. Though, if I'm being honest, I consider Gross a serious fighter, unpredictable, just like Cus said. That's exactly why I won't give him the chance to put himself down.
And in June 1986, there was no more motivating challenge than a fight against the undefeated phenomenon from Brooklyn.
Shake hands now. Come up.
From the first seconds, Tyson did what was already becoming his trademark. Pressure, constant cutting off the ring, not a single second of rest. But Gross wasn't panicking. He moved, he watched, he waited for his moment. About a minute before the end of the first round, Gross found an opening. A clean uppercut, then a right hook, that for just a moment, made Tyson aware of the threat. That was the moment Gross felt his chance and made the biggest mistake of his career. Instead of staying cautious, he decided to risk everything. He threw 18 punches in a row, trying to shock the entire boxing world. Tyson answered with one, a counter left. Gross rose on pure instinct, on sheer will, but the fight was already over. One of the most devastating knockouts of Tyson's early career, and perhaps the clearest proof of just how far ahead of everyone else he already was. 18 punches, one answer. The man who was going to put Mike Tyson to sleep was the first one on the floor.
Were you surprised by that?
Not at all. At first I thought because he charged out a little with a kind of a sluggish stand, like he's just ready to wing. But I was precarious about it, and I just kept putting the jab in his face, looking forward for him to move forward.
If there is a way to beat Mike Tyson, how do you do it? Don't want to talk about that one, do you? I don't.
357 Magnum.
I'm starting to think.
Good chance.
But the darkest part of this story began after. In the fall of 1986, just 2 months after the loss, Reggie Gross was arrested. The charge? 3 murders. According to prosecutors, he had carried them out for the notorious Bordley organization. At first, he avoided punishment due to lack of evidence. But later, another gang member, Donnie Andrews, began cooperating with federal authorities. His testimony linked Gross into several killings. In 1989, a second arrest, 3 life sentences, 2 of them consecutive. The man who rapped in front of journalists and genuinely believed he could turn the boxing world upside down spent far more time in federal prison than he ever did in the ring. One punch ended his fight with Tyson. His own choices destroyed everything else. Turns out, the most dangerous thing about Reggie Gross was never his punch.
And look at young Mike Tyson, age 20 years old. He could go into the record books tonight as one of the very youngest heavyweight champions of all time.
As for Tyson, he kept moving forward. Within months, he would claim a world title, a title Cus would never see, then a second, then a third. But that is a story for another time. Subscribe so you don't miss it.
Well, it's hard to say. As you notice, and they went in boxing and in entertainment, the heavyweight division and the titles are exchangeable like flashlight batteries.
Yeah.
Everybody's winning the title.
That's
Every
right.
time their first defense, their second defense, they're losing the title.
Yeah.
And you never know with the obligations of the fighters and the networks, you never know.